Welcome to Catalytic Leadership, the podcast designed to help leaders intentionally grow and thrive. Here is your host, author, and leadership and executive coach, Dr. William Attaway.
It is an honor today to have Brett Linnenkohl and Josh Koeller on the podcast. I'm so excited about this conversation. This is going to be a little bit different, guys. And where I want to start is with you sharing a little bit of your story, a little bit of your background with our listeners. How did you get where you are?
No, well, first up, I just want to say, William, thanks for having us on. It's I've known you for, quite a while now, I feel like. And just watching this show and just what you've been able to do as you rise up. And I don't know, it's just being here is just truly such an honor. It's just crazy, and we're really excited. And I'll start myself, and then I'll hand it over to you, Josh. So yeah, I'm Brett, and my story, I am a fractional COO. Specifically, I've worked with agencies. About 80% of my roster has been agencies. What I love, and my specialty has been, is turning operations into math, right? Things that are objective and very clear so that teams can actually be productive and they can all know exactly what's going on. Visionaries, they can make it very complicated. So that's what I do. And I'm going to transition to the star of the show in a lot of ways, which we'll be getting into, and that is my partner, Josh. So I ran into Josh as a fractional COO. Josh was also a fractional COO. And learning his story, just incredible. Just incredible, his insight and how he takes what a lot of people take for granted and flips on the head to show that, hey, something like customer service, these lowly customer service team members or account managers, they can actually drive your business. And in fact, as you'll find today, they kind of actually are your business. So much hidden revenue, so much really cool insight that's brought us into this today that we'll share with you. And with that, Josh, let me pass to you, and you can tell a little bit about your background.
Thanks, Brett. And thanks, William, for having us today and just getting us on and allowing us the opportunity to talk about us and what we're doing. As Brett alluded to, I have spent the last 15 years in the corporate world. I started off at L'Oreal working as one of those lowly customer service agents, team members, answering phones, responding to emails. And that's where I started my career. And so as Brett also alluded to, I eventually ended my career and continued my career as a fractional COO. So obviously there was a transition from lowly customer agent to now a leader. And so I worked my way up through L'Oreal, through the ranks, becoming a team lead, then supervisor, then manager, then director of the entire customer service team. And through this whole process, I discovered not only what it means to be a leader in the leadership space and how to effectively do that, but I understood from a very intimate position how important customer service really is and how important each of those aspects of the customer relationship and building relationships, even in a quick moment like a phone call, actually is to growing a business. And so from my L'Oreal days, I did transition into an actual COO role for an agency, a digital marketing agency out of Colorado, and absolutely loved it. And through that experience, I actually helped the team focus, by the team, I mean the entire company, focus on customer service and what that really meant to the company, and was able to impact it in ways where churn went from 7% on a regular basis to below 2% on a regular basis, and seeing how impactful that was financially for the business, but also relationship-wise for the customer service team and how effective they were able to do their jobs as well. So my experience is vast, but it's always been surrounded by this idea of the customer service team and highlighting the importance of what they do and how they do it. And as Brett said before too, they do drive the business, right? They're the ones who make businesses tick. You may think it's sales, you may think it's marketing that brings all the money in, but in reality, if you change the way you think about customer service and how they impact a business, that's what really changes businesses around and helps grow them far more than anything else.
I work with a lot of agencies, guys, and what I see is a huge problem is churn. This is not uncommon what you're describing there, Josh. A 7% churn rate. I've seen significantly higher than that with some of the agencies that I've looked at. And one of the biggest problems I think that is so often unaddressed, people are chasing top line revenue. They're chasing MRR. And in agency world, that's kind of the gold standard in a lot of ways. I would argue that your profitability should be a number you track right alongside your top line revenue, because you can have a fantastic top line, but if you're only 1 or 2% profitable, this is not a business I'd want to be a part of. And I don't know an owner that would. But the churn number is the third number that I look at. And if that is not healthy, then man, you are chasing the wind. Mm-hmm. You guys have come up with something that I think is incredibly powerful. And this is why I invited you to be on the show, because I want you to talk about this. Every agency that I'm aware of that's really focusing on this has some type of methodology to track customer experience, right? And they're giving people the red, yellow, green label every time from the account managers, however they're doing it. But so often it is incredibly subjective. I think they're green. Yeah, we had a good conversation. Everybody seemed happy. I think they're green. Yeah, they haven't complained, so we'll call them green. Or, well, we had one complaint this month, so maybe, yellow, green. It's so incredibly subjective. You guys have found a way and have come up with a tool to help move this out of the subjective realm into a way that it's data driven. I would love for you to share about this.
Yeah, so I'll talk a little bit about that, because you're exactly right, William. Churn is a significant number that nobody wants to look at, but is so very important to look at and to rectify and fix. So when it comes to customer health, it really should be the determining factor of whether a client's going to churn or not. You're exactly right. Most teams, if not all teams at this point in the business world, look at it very subjectively. It's a gut feel. Hey, I feel like this customer is doing really well. I just had a conversation with them and they seemed happy. They seemed to enjoy the experience, but in reality, 2 or 3 days later, they churn. You go, what just happened? It was a big surprise, and it should never have happened, because the reality of the fact is that customer was giving us signals 60 to 90 days prior that they were going to churn. The CSM just didn't see it. The customer service team didn't hear it, or they did hear it, but they didn't know what to do with it, or they heard a mixed signal and they didn't understand it. So there are so many things that go into why a customer churns, and most of those things happen in secret, or happen from a tone change, or happen from an engagement shift, right? Not actually happening where it's like, oh, like I had a call and they just chewed me out and they're very unhappy. Like, well, yeah, of course, it's a big glaring signal in your face. It's the other signals that they're not going to tell you right in your face that is the reason that they actually churn. And so through this whole experience of subjective gut feel type, health scores during my days at L'Oreal, I decided to make a shift and be like, there's got to be a better way to look at this. There's got to be more objective, data-driven way to look at churn and the reasons why people churn and predicting it before it happens, and overall customer health. So I developed a way to look at 4 different segments.
I think it's tough to actually know what we built without kind of knowing the context. And Josh and his expertise, I'll just tell quickly about when we first started engaging and what blew me away. So again, just like you, William, I also know agencies, right? I go in specifically, I get helicoptered in when they are just in pain, things are clunked up and everything's bottlenecked on. And there was one part of the agency I've always struggled to nail. And that is the subjective area. That is the account manager, right? Yeah. And it's great. It lifts your time when you're able to place and rely on an account manager as an agency owner, right? You don't have to answer the reactive questions. You're finally out of the heat of having to always be in touch with the client. But as you said, that leaves so much wiggle room for subjective opinion, right? And you have to rely on their opinion, not only to know, are they green, whatever that means? Are they yellow? Are they red? Yeah, I talked to him 2 days ago. That was my first call of the day of 7. And I think I remember them being kind of happy. So we're good. And that's really the way it goes. And that is what happens. So the same that we're all bringing it to, right? When you're in a visionary agency and you have your numbers on, what's my pipeline? What are my sales? What I have? You have that all dashboarded out, and in the backside, you know nothing about the profitability of your actual customer base, let alone what they're actually doing. So that's exactly what it was. What I found with Josh and what you're alluding to, going kind of more in the weeds, because Josh, believe me, William, as we get into this, and anyone listening will be blown away like I was about some of the ways you can flip, the whole science of account management on its head with what you've uncovered, Josh. But what struck out to me in his 15 years, the end of it, to get the results of the the 7.5% down to 1.8% churn, to get the results of 3 million to 10 million in a division and bringing profit with no new sales, only by training the account managers. It all comes down to what, Josh, you called, and the first time I heard it to me, the 5 profit playbooks. And one of those, as we're talking, being the staple, which is retention. You got to get clients on your side. So that really, when you talk about our software and what we've built in what's actually called the customer profit engine, that is the term of what we've built and how we bring in retention. That's the science behind it. Josh has found a way to find all those signals that customers give off when they're not happy, when they're not using something, when they're, just these little idiosyncrasies. And he's categorized them into signals that, if explored, if the account manager is aware of them and they can go dig into it and enrich those signals, they can actually populate on a dashboard. You, the owner, can actually see it. We can rate it, and we can try to get that score up objectively with our coaching. And that's what this is all about. And that's, again, what brings us here today. So hopefully, William, again, we're kind of in the weeds of it as we bring this out, and we just appreciate you bringing out of our head. But I'd be curious, and your typical listener base, how else are they approaching? And what else have you seen that maybe we can share today that just helps show the value of what we built? Because there's a lot in there. Again, credit to you, Josh.
I mean, the pain point here is the unknown. It's the subjective unknown. Without the data to know where those signals are, what those signals are, when those signals are firing, the account managers and thus the owners, with the information that's passed to them, are kind of firing blind and saying, yeah, I think they're green. Yeah. Well, they might be yellow. Maybe we'll give them a little extra attention this month. I think it's incredibly subjective. And even with agencies that I have seen that try to dial this in and really try to use metrics to say, okay, what is yellow? What is green? What's dark green? What's light green? And I've seen some of that. And that's great. They're trying to dial this in. I still haven't seen anything like what you guys have built. A dashboard that is able to take the information and leveraging the power of looking across the entire data stream and firing a flare and saying, hey, wait a minute, have you noticed this thread, this conversation, this word was used, this piece here, this data point? Hey, the light's flashing. I haven't seen that anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
Like, have you used this with an agency? Have you seen this particular product that you've come up with? Have you seen this used to good effect?
Yeah. Well, so it is innovative and new as far as I've ever seen, right? There were a few softwares, and actually the company we're partnering with, Brad Ferris and others made him agency, very top of class, world-class agency placements. And that was one of the things, that I know he pointed out. He said, I know this software and that software, and nothing comes close. Those were in the past. And what's unique about this one is we've taken Josh's 5 profit playbooks, and along with our other partner, Omar, he's been a 25-year, dev shop owner. He's built just countless softwares. He's launched blockchain, all kinds of emerging technology, augmented tech, IoT, really knows just what the limits in a sci-fi way are. And he's built these, what he calls his AI crews, to go through agency and business data, conversations, Slack, CRM, any transcripts, calls, emails, phone numbers, text messages. And with the agentic crews, it actually does all the work for you. Whereas Josh, of course, it took you months to go in a company, train everyone, find the signals, how to log them, where to put them, how to coordinate, and actually see the profit. This program, it takes all that data now, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and it standardizes it. And that's how we get the magic. That's how we produce these intelligent signals. That's how we rate and have a standard objective that we can measure against to ensure that customers are always getting more value, understanding the value that your agency is providing to them, and countless other things, that we call intelligence, right? It's like you got this mound of dirt, we go in and we put it on our machine, and then we get all this gold. And that's not really the end of it either. What do you do with that intelligence once you actually have it? Right. And again, I know we'll get into that as well.
You spoke to a very, I guess, challenging thing for me. William, you did it first, and then I think you elaborated on it very well, Brett. And this is the idea of having a piece of technology that can do all of the manual work that I used to do for me. So when you think about an objective health score, as we discussed before, all this data, where does it come from? Where does it go? How do we log it? Where do we put it? Right? You should have seen the number of spreadsheets, like Excel spreadsheets and Google Sheets that I had to try to log all of this stuff and get it figured out and put it into these nice fancy graphs to ensure that I was seeing the right data. Now, I had the advantage of being a part of big corporate teams who had big, expensive CRMs where I could get some of this data rather easily, but I still had to organize it very manually. Whereas what Omar and the team here has built is such an automated and innovative way to collect all this information and all this data, the signals, the intelligence, where before I was relying a lot on my customer service team, who was very well trained, but still very human and would miss things, would miss signals, would miss pieces of information to contribute to those health scores. And while they were very objective comparative to what a lot of people see today, they still held that margin of error, you could call it. And with what we have here, there is little to no margin of error when it comes to how objective these health scores can be and how important and really valuable the intelligence coming out of these AI crews that is hand delivered to each CSM and each agency.
So talk about this for a minute, because y'all have mentioned something in passing. This is connecting into the CRM. This is connecting into every transcript, every conversation, call recordings, Slack, and this is pulling from all of that data to look for these signals.
That's it. When we first started this project, it was a big topic of discussion. Are we just rebuilding a CRM? Is that what we're actually doing? And we had a lot of discussion. And what we realized, and there's really two approaches. One, it seems like you have to have a super dialed in team to actually use a CRM the correct way and update it and log it, right? But on top of that, the CRM is only one little piece of the picture. Again, going back to subjectivity, who's loading notes in the CRM, right? Who's actually giving their opinion? Of course, you can these days have AI and give updates, etc. But it's not running through that filter to say, this is what really matters. This was a signal that you may not have picked up on, that this client may not be happy, and we got to dig into that. And that's really where it picks up. That's where the coaching begins. But we call it an augmented intelligence platform. That's really what we've set out to build and give as an unfair advantage to any agency owner that is trying to focus on sales, but wants to know what the heck is actually going on. What is the health of my customer base? And of course, tidied that into a nice little dashboard that actually shows how much profit have we made this month based on the actions and the effort of my account manager.
So tell me about where you've seen this in real action. What kind of results have you seen this produce?
So we've been working with a couple agencies now, and one of our pilot agencies that we work with, they were gracious enough to allow this to be a pilot, to be a kind of a test, and okay, let's connect things and start going through it, and they've helped us shape what we've built in large part, which is really neat. But the give back was obviously the intelligence and all of the things that are baked into what we've built, plus a consistent training / consultancy from me, and being able to tap into real human intelligence and learn from all of that, all of the 15 years of experience that I've built up and grown from, now poured into CSM teams at this agency. And
we did this pilot, the one that Josh mentioned. So it was a 3-month pilot. At the very first week, we hooked this thing up. We taught the CSMs, this is what we're going to be doing. Here's what intelligence looks like. And in the first week, we found a hidden signal that a CSM kind of remembered, but it totally, had forgotten about. She was blind to a hidden signal of a client that had a desire to actually look better online, and he didn't even know how to say it. And Josh, right? I remember distinctly you saying, what is this? Tell me about it. We broke it down. We started chatting about it. Well, turns out she was able to investigate it from that one piece of intelligence and flip it into a $6,000 upsell, a website. And that's when I personally was like, okay, this actually works, right? That's what gave me the confidence. What was nice about the pilot, we gave them the pilot beta price saying, hey, help us out. And in turn, we paid for the whole thing, right? Within a week. And from there, the results of the pilot were very exciting as well. And honestly, to be dead honest, it's a pilot, right? We didn't even know what we were doing. We ended with a 4% reduction in churn. And, I think the quote, Josh, and I know
that was only after 3 months too. That was 90 days for 4% reduction in churn. So
4% reduction in churn in 90 days.
Correct.
I just don't want to run past that.
No,
I know a whole lot of agencies that would be clapping like a seal over a 4% reduction in churn in 90 days.
Exactly. And William, when we get in these dialogues, Josh, again, is a depth guy. He's the guy that gets in front of CX teams and just goes off because of experience. And it's easy to look over this, but for you, Josh, I think you also, from 7.5% to 1.8%, 4%. But it is in an agency world. And I do want to expand on that, my own opinion and what I've seen and why. But 4%, that equaled about 52K ARR in saved money. And what does that mean? That means this business owner at the end of the year is going to be able to look at their Stripe account and notice, well, it's $52,000 free dollars. And what's even better is that compounds as long as we keep momentum, which we are. We'll talk about a few other experimental features we're unrolling for this beta part of this program. But that's all compounding money. And really, it's just cool. It's just getting started.
And on top of that, Brett, too, like think about I call it the churn treadmill, right? You get 5 new sales this month, but at the end of the month, you're like, oh, but shoot, I just churned 5 people. So now those sales mean absolutely nothing. It's just replacing what you've already churned, right?
That's right.
So you can finally get off this churn treadmill and make every new sale count. Every new sale counts as new business and new money in your pocket versus this idea like, okay, I churned 5 people last month or 5 people over the last 6 months. Now I got to figure out a way to replace those people. Now I have to go up my game on the sales side to ensure I'm getting that money just to stay flat, not to gain anything, but just to stay absolutely flat. Now you solve the problem at the root and the back end from customer service and retention side of things. And every new sale now means a whole heck of a lot more.
Yeah, that's the key. What you just said there, like you gain 5, you lose 5. You just wasted a whole lot of energy and effort to stay exactly the same.
Yeah. And that's not even,
I've seen this.
Yeah. That's not even saying that. I mean, some people are negative, right? They lose 5 and only gain 3, or
That's
they
right.
lose 10 and they gain 5. Like, so now you're moving backwards on this treadmill. You're not even staying like the same pace.
That's it.
Yeah. Imagine getting ahead of that and seeing this churn 60, 90 days before it happens, having your CSMs have those conversations well before it happens so they can fix the problems that are truly on the customer's minds. Not a guess, not a subjective gut feel, but actual, like, I know what you're worried about. I'm here to fix it for you. I'm here to help you, and having those conversations well before it happens.
Yeah, this is a major pain point, guys. I mean, really, I think this is something that every agency that I know of thinks about if they're wanting to grow and to scale. If you do not get retention right, it does not matter really if your sales are just off the chart, because you've got an incredibly leaky back door. That's not going to serve anybody.
Nope. Well, and William, talking about agency owners specifically, right? And again, knowing the world. So again, just as we unfold all context, Josh has been, your agency, Josh, was a 9017 corporate agency, right? So a little bit different of a beast than the ones that William and I work with that maybe founded it, started it, lifestyle business. But an interesting thing that I found and really adapted the mindset of through this pilot and through Josh's training, that if I'm an agency owner out here, this is probably one of the thoughts I have in my head, right? When we talk about churn and you look at it, this is how I used to look at it, right? The same hammer with the nail, right? I'm not going to switch my tool is, it's what is retention? Well, it's just results, right? They just want to get results. That's what retention all is about. And what Josh has taught me and what we've embedded in the coaching of this, crazy enough, with strong customer service teams and account managers, with strong enough relationships, particularly ones that are proactive, where you get ahead of everything. It's crazy the amount of business and the leaky churn you can save just by focusing on that, right? Even if you're getting bad results, they will stay with you because they love you, because they love the relationship. And of course, that shoes off to another subject of, don't you hate it when your account manager leaves and they have the tight relationship and you have to figure out, how do I replace them? How do I not lose that business? That's another huge problem that, of course, this solves and allows the scalability of. But that point there, it's more than just results. It really is. It's the client feeling like, man, I am family to these people. They are always looking out for me and they're always trying to do something. And the way we see it, like even in that tiny little realm of profit side of the playbook in retention. You keep someone for one more month on average and hopefully have a chance to keep going and get them results. It pays for itself, right? And that's kind of the bottom line.
Yeah, you triggered me, Brett. What you said, reactive to proactive, and I'll just touch on this really quickly, but it's much like leadership in a lot of ways. As I was developing my career and becoming the leader that I eventually became, and am still becoming in a lot of regards, one of the things I discovered was I have to be more proactive with my team members. I have to invest more of my time into them so that I'm cutting down on the reactivity. A lot of times I'd have lines at my desk saying, Josh, can you solve this problem for me? Hey, Josh, this customer's escalated. Can you take over? Whatever it was. And I'm like, well, how do I stop the reactivity? How do I stop, having to solve all these problems for my team? Well, it took me actually proactively coaching them and being like, let me come alongside you and actually teach you and coach you on how to do this, or how to solve these problems, or how to think critically on your own, how to build a leader yourself in your own little world before I was able to stop being reactive, because then they were on their own and they could do it themselves. Same with customer service. How do you stop being a reactive team? That was the biggest question I got when I joined the agency that I joined. Yeah, the big corporate, or larger corporate, but big question was, well, Josh, how do we get the customer service team to stop being reactive? And I told them very straight, well, be more proactive. What does that mean? Reach out. Well, isn't that more time consuming? Like, yeah, but you invest that time now, then the reactivity stops. The problems stop. You solve them at the root proactively right now, you're going to get less problems in the future. It is more time consuming in the now. We can figure out how to adjust their schedules so that they can fit that in. But we have to pursue that before we can become more proactive. And sure enough, we did. And that was why we resulted in a far significant decrease in churn and other things. So yeah, this tool is pinnacle in helping teams in a much easier way than what I had to do it without the tool, to becoming proactive versus reactive, and just essentially gives them the intelligence and data that they need to go and do it now.
We've been focusing on the agency market, and that's something that we all know well, but this actually has applications far beyond just digital marketing agencies. This can be used in any company that is focused on providing a world-class customer experience, increasing their retention and lowering their churn, right?
100%.
Totally. Yeah. So our strategy as we unroll it, and as you know, William, we're still fairly early days. I feel like any startup in the first 5 years, always early days, right? We're always testing. We're always trying applications. Knowing the agency world myself, and then Josh having 5 years at a big agency, we figured it was a good place to start, a great sandbox. Agency owners are very fast to learn, very open to new innovative ideas and applying technology. So that is the reason we're starting here, but you're absolutely right. Any business that has customers, which basically is nearly any business, is applicable. And here, let me tell you why, and I'll give you a couple examples. So 2 conversations we're having that would be a good example. One is MSP providers. So MSP, if you're familiar, very good retention rates in that industry, right? You get in, it's very sticky, and you have to pull all your tech out. So they don't have much of a retention problem. For them, retention, we're good. But how do you make your money as an MSP? How do you grow the business? Well, it's in upsells, right? For them, they have to find the needs of the clients and then be able to provide packaged, products that they can upsell and escalate. And that all comes from understanding the needs of your customers as a whole. Now, you got a choice when you do that. You can go interview individual customers, ask your customer service members, what's the problem? What's the issue? What's the XYZ? But at the end of the day, this tool and where we're shaping it in those conversations is another part of your playbooks, Josh, right? It's a soak intelligence, right? It's the click of a button ability to look at every conversation, have a button and say, here are the main prioritized needs that we need to repackage a product around. Or this is why maybe for another industry, anyone of let's apply it to sales, right? Why did you sign with us over competitors? They won't tell the salesperson that, but they might tell the CX person if they're trained and coached to go get whatever info. So varying industries. We talked with the number 2 solar company and we're engaging, number 2 solar installation company in the US and engaging conversations with them of applying it. What was interesting is in that industry, from door knock to signing to actual installation, they lose a lot of business, right? The trust there is not huge. And essentially, 40% churn from a door knock, from a signing to actually install. But that's 35 days that we can engineer a customer experience and collect data in order to increase that. And for them, right, solar companies, that's 100,000, whatever it is, install. 1%, 1 percentage point, just huge gains in them. So yeah, any company really, there is an application, and it's really fun with what I get to do of just look at and say, how can we innovate to match the needs of any separate industry in using customer service?
And two, like to that point as well, and to answer your question, William, the 5 profit playbooks, 75% of it was built from my corporate experience at L'Oreal. So that's call center environment, 50 to 60 agents. So talk about multi-billion-dollar big corporation type feel. The whole core, 75% of the core of this was built for that. But the unique thing is like Brett had mentioned, everybody has customers. And as I mentioned before, the customer is the core of your business. Even if you don't think so, it is. Like we can flex the playbooks to fit your corporation, to fit your business. And it's not just for one single business type, one single agency type. It's really meant to be flexible for any business that has customers.
This isn't just a subscription that people buy into, plug it in, and then you kind of forget about it. You guys you've mentioned several times the coaching that you provide as a part of this. Talk about that for
Yeah. So again, on this hunt to bring this to market, and as we kind of find what works best and how to best deliver value, one thing definitely that stands out is someone going into this, it can be kind of overwhelming. You have all these different ways of things I got to investigate, all these intelligence dashboards, right? And so what is very important to us is to make clear, right? When we take that data and bring the intelligence, that's not where it ends. It's really just where it starts. It's all those months of work to give account managers that. And the real magic in our program, in the account manager profit accelerator that we're doing with AGT, Josh actually hops in with your team, right? And we help hold your team accountable to digging in, and he gets to tell them, you see this, let's investigate this. Here's how we go find XYZ. And it's the feedback loop, right? Where by him showing how to not only use the intelligence and attack profitable signals, but also telling him how to enrich that data, right? The more ask this question, ask that question, it just starts populating, your platform with all kinds of custom intelligence about your base. And yeah, so in this program, that's it is, account managers, right? Just helping, like who in which company has actual coaching, right, for account managers. And so we really wanted to bring that and ensure that they really could actually get results out of it. I also will mention, and Josh, if you have something on that as well, but it's one thing we built that I think is really valuable to not only the decision maker, right, the agency owner, the business owner, but also to speeding up the feedback loop of ensuring we actually get results, is we built a dashboard, right? We have a dashboard that we actually send out to the owner. And it just shows the 5 different ways that you're actually, increasing profit by retention. One we haven't talked about, referrals. There's a whole science for that. There's upsells, expansion opportunities is what you call them, Josh, intelligence. So there's just a massive way. And we know business owners, right? When you make decisions, it's about ROI. That's the way business should be run. But you should always know from the actions we're coaching your team to go out and hunt and put effort into, you should know what's coming back from that, right? And you should be able to see the fruits of that. And I know we have so much, William, that we haven't even unpacked here. But one thing I'll mention as a part of that we're testing with this beta, so anyone coming in and hearing this while this beta is still going, is this came from a quick story. In Josh's company, at one point, he had a CSM when he implemented this program, right, in the marketing company. Well, she made, this account manager, apparently was a rock star, right, Josh? She made an extra $40K from a simple retention commission program that Josh put into place, right? And when I heard that, and knowing anyone's human psychology, if you have a base of people like account managers who are there to build trust, and they just need to put in a little more effort to build more and more and more, why shouldn't they be rewarded for keeping accounts long-term? And I thought that was a really good piece of the measurement that we've implemented in this and are testing. Commission for the win-win structure. Let's make more money. Let's, make this business more stable, and let's add to the.
Yeah, and to kind of pile on to that as well, you mentioned it's somewhat of a accountability coaching, but I think it's even more than that, right? I help fast track CSMs to become legendary, to become world-class CSMs, world-class experienced deliverers, right? They're not only, their main focus is not new sales, is not upsells. I don't even like that word. I know you mentioned that word before, Brett, it made me cringe. But customer service and CSMs and CX, they're not built to be salespeople, right? They are hired and engineered and trained to be the best relationship providers, relationship managers that are out there. And you don't hire a customer service agent because they're really good at sales. No, you hire a salesperson to do that. The problem with upsells is any selling activity is a trust-breaking activity. And the main goal of a CSM is to build trust. So why would you implement something that is trust-breaking activity, even though it may lead to new dollars and profit and revenue later on? Why would you implement anything that would break trust from a CSM standpoint in their role and from a customer standpoint? Why would you implement that when ultimately it's going to hurt your overall LTV, lifetime value of that customer? It's going to start that trust-breaking signal, and they're really going to be the questions start to appear in the customer's mind. Does this CSM really care about me? Like, now they're just trying to sell me something. Like, do they really care about the relationship at all? And they start questioning it, and that leads to eventual churn. Even the best customers churn because they felt oversold to by their CSM. So rather, it's more of a natural conversation. If a customer is ready for expansion, those signals will happen, and your CSM should be trained on how to pick up on the signals. And if they are trained on the signals, they can pick them up. If they miss those signals, well, that's what the tool's for as well. It picks up on those signals as well. Hey, this person's ready. And as Brett mentioned before, that's what we found with the pilot that we did, right? This one CSM heard the signal, forgot about it. She understood it, but she forgot about it. And the tool picked it up and said, hey, remember this? Yeah, go and talk about this again. They're ready for it. You just have to have the right conversation. And so my training and my coaching helps have those conversations without being a salesperson. It helps have better, more rich relationship building conversations and activities versus just plugging in a sales conversation. Oh, have you tried this? Like, step on down. Like, now you become a used car salesman. Who trusts used car salesmen these days? Nobody. Let's be honest.
We've been talking this whole time about forward thinking, forward progress. And I think that's important. But one of the things you guys mentioned to me previously was that this can also be used in a look back way. That you can think about this the same way we think about a database reactivation. We look back at previous customers or previous clients or previous relationships. And you can actually go back and mine that data and discover things that you missed the first time around. Is that right?
Yeah. Brett, I want you to speak to your experience with the pilot in that regard, but I want to point something out right away first when it comes to looking back, right? As a leader in the customer service world for as long as I've been, it's always been such a crutch not to have or not to be able to gather data on customers who have already churned, right? So you think about the list of previous churn customers, we call it the postmortem, right? How often are we sending out those churn surveys or those cancellation surveys, right? Sure, all of you have them. If you don't, well, there's a reason why you don't, because they're rarely sent back. Hey, sorry you left. Here's a survey. Quick, fill it out. Tell us why you left. Like, they left for a reason. They're not going to waste their time on telling you why they left. You have to try to figure that out for yourself. But the cool thing is what if, and just imagine this, what if you could have an automatic return survey for every client who left historically and know exactly why they left and what built up to them saying, you know what, I'm done. I mean, your world would change because now you can make adjustments in how you market. You can make adjustments in how you fulfill. You can make adjustments in how you care for your customers from a relationship standpoint. And that's exactly what this tool gives you, which is just mind-blowing in my mind. It's an added bonus that I didn't even think of when we started building it. I'm like, whoa, this is really cool. So yeah, Brett, go ahead and go on about how we went through that with our pilot program.
Yeah, no, it was really interesting when we hooked it up. And it was something I noticed actually, because it wasn't even part of the 5-Prop playbook. It's kind of more applicable here. But basically 10 years worth of data for this agency had been in operation. And we noticed it went in and soaked out the data from those past clients, right? And of course, if you have high churn, you're going to have a lot of past clients. But the reason they left might be salvageable, right? We found, what was it? Something like, it was like I cannot even remember the number, honestly.
The total ARR was 2 million.
I think we found 2 million in past churn accounts that had they stayed, that they could have been collecting, right? And it was really eye-opening. And what we tried to do with that actually was not successful in this pass, but looking through, we noticed different variables, right? They had a past CX, a past account manager who just was not up to fluff. They weren't fulfilling expectations. And so it was really cool. What Omar built is a little tag, CX issue, right? Or didn't get what they needed. But it was just a nice little dashboard feature we built, knowing that, hey, there might be something salvageable here. Maybe there's an offer we can bring people back and say, now we've matured. Now we're more, into whatever the problem is. There's certainly a chunk in every agency that someone's gone, the grass is greener, and maybe it wasn't, and we can woo them back. But how painful is that? I have to go through each part of your CSM, find different clients, right? When it's all right there and you can press a button and know exactly sentiment score wise why they left. So definitely something we're exploring and adding, because we'd love for this to be profitable immediately just from
I know we could talk for another hour or two about all the things that you're seeing and the potential, in addition to the case studies of what you've already seen. I think this has been a fantastic primer, and I'm confident there are a whole lot of people who are like, okay, how do I take a next step here? Like, how do I jump in on this?
Yeah.
What's the best way for folks to connect with you and talk about how they can begin to see these type of results?
Yeah. So our website, customerprofitengine.com, there's a little link there and you can just click in and put your info. And to get results and basically asking, what is our offer now? What's our program? So we are doing a program. It's called the Account Manager Profit Accelerator. Mentioned it earlier. And for that, whether if you have an account manager, if you have multiple account managers, or even if you don't have one and you want to bring one up to speed quickly, and sorry to sidetrack, very cool with this software is we can soak your data and train your CSM on your customers within weeks, not within months. You don't have to have these objective convos. I think this person's still happy, and that whole handoff. It's there in minutes. So if you're looking even just to place somebody and get them up to speed quickly, we would absolutely love to work with you. We are moving with this program. We're calling it our beta. All right. We're looking for 10 agencies, honestly, probably more at the speed at which we're moving. And it's like we are practically giving it away, to be honest, William. We really are. We think it's worth a lot more. We have plans for these industries and corporate, but for agencies specifically, if this is something you're interested in at all we're asking for is 90 days in this program. And in that 3 months, we're going to hook up the software. We're going to help you set a win-win, like a heck yeah commission program, both for you and your account managers to be like, I want to do this. I want to use this intelligence. You will see them, skying and excited. And we'll set that up with you. Commission, we'll set the tech. And then we have a group session every single week where we invite your account manager. And all we do is we dig into that intelligence in your company. And we teach them to go and enrich it and bring in profit. And past that, we hand you a dashboard. We show you the actual results of what they're doing. And at the end of the day, we show you profit. And in fact, so much so, from the results of this pilot, from everything Josh has done in his past, we are 100% confident on a guarantee, right? And the guarantee is this: if you don't 2x your investment in that 90 days of being in this program, we will work with you and your account manager for free until you do, right? And here's the really, really best part, the pennies on the dollar, William, for any of these early movers who see the advantage and know that hey, yeah, I could try to build this myself, sure. Or I could just get the fast version and have a someone who builds it for billion-dollar enterprises, just go and plug it in and make it profitable. It's $1,000 a month. So if you're an agency owner, you want to even get your churn rate down a point, you got 3,000 and you give us 90 days and you want to jump in, we will make a difference. We'll bring that 6K back in 90 days. Well, with the other one, maybe even in the first week. And we just want to show you the power of this and also bring you into what is even possible once you have that data running and your account manager team running. So I don't know if I missed anything on the exact offer of this, but truly, we are looking for those innovative types that want to make a difference to their bottom line, who know there's opportunity, starting with retention and then growing from there, bringing in all the profit from your base.
Well, I'll tell you, I've seen a demo of this. I've looked at your case study. Here's what I know. This is a very real pain point, a very real need. And I believe you guys are adding a tremendous amount of value. That is a no-brainer offer. And I'm just going to put my voice behind this and say, if you are in a position to do this and you want to see your churn drop and your retention climb, you need to talk to these guys. Step out. We're going to have that link in the show notes. I'm going to encourage you, go do this. This is something that is going to help you to build something healthy and sustainable over time that will scale. Guys, thank you for your time, for the expertise that you have brought in putting this together, and for the value that you are adding and are going to add to so many businesses. I cannot wait to see where you go from here.
Yeah. Well, likewise. Thank you, William. Thanks for having us on and our, hive-like minds of going in every which direction and keeping us on it. But at the end of the day, we are very excited, very pumped to bring value. And anyone that joins from here just truly cannot wait to have you in and show you the power of this thing and the power of what this system can do for your business.
Yeah, likewise. I'm so thrilled about what we're building, and even more thrilled to start connecting and talking to even more CSMs and customer service teams, and honestly changing mindsets and changing businesses along the way.